All right, so we spent yesterday celebrating the Florida Panthers, which we will continue to do. Y'all see I got my Panther shirt on, and I will be at the parade this Sunday, which I'm very excited about because it'll actually be my first ever championship parade. I didn't go when the Heat won back in the day, and I did not go when the Panthers won last year, which was the right choice because it was storming. So hopefully this Sunday is good. I'm very excited about it. That being said, we haven't talked about Kevin Durant in a couple of days, and of course, that's the news that everybody's itching for. It's actually really funny. I've been trolling a lot on Twitter, basically making fun of people that claim to have sources but really don't, and I've just been tweeting all kind of dumb stuff to mock them, like saying, I've been told the Miami Heat are at the 6.5-yard line on a Kevin Durant deal. Or I've been told that Liam Eichenberg committed holding. It's now 2nd and 22 in terms of Miami Heat deal. I don't know. Y'all know how all these dumb reports, they be putting quotation marks around random ass phrases to make it sound like it came from a source? No, the answer is nobody knows nothing except for who? Comment down below the only person who knows anything. That's right, it's Shams Charania. That's it. I've been preaching it. But anyways, I've been having fun on Twitter. So make sure y'all check it out if you want to, at AnthonyD_Heat. But over the last couple of days, there has been the usual reports. You had The Athletic coming out and reporting that Kevin Durant's top trade destination is the San Antonio Spurs. But it's like, why even trust The Athletic? Because in their initial report of his preferred destinations a few days ago, they didn't even have Miami until Shams came out and corrected them. Plus, this specific report doesn't even have a name attached to it. Who is the guy writing this? It's just The Athletic, the brand. Like, never trust a faceless account or anything if they're making a report. None of them know anything. Meanwhile, yeah, The Athletic is saying that the Spurs are KD's main choice. Out of his main choices, that's the one he likes the most. But you have Shams coming out and saying that the Heat and Rockets are actually the more realistic landing spots, because of a lot of the other reports have said that the Spurs don't really look like they're being all that aggressive. And why would they? It seems like the Suns are asking for the number 2 pick or Stephon Castle, which is ridiculous. Like, the Spurs got a nice young team. They weren't great last year. They won like 30 games. They had some injuries, of course. We still don't know if Wemby's okay. I think that's a big part of this too. Hopefully everything is good with him. I guess he was just traveling in China, doing all that stuff with the monks and stuff. So maybe that does mean he's okay, blood clot wise. But we just wish the best for him. But they got a nice young team. I don't think they're ready to win a championship right now. So why would they be aggressive going after Kevin Durant? It's different than the Rockets, who were literally the 2nd seed last year. Spurs got a bit of a way to go. And just giving up somebody the value of Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper, that would obviously be just stupid. It really seems like the Suns owner, Matt Ishbia, who's now really involved. It's not just the GM anymore. Matt Ishbia, the owner, is pretty involved as well. Seems like he's being ridiculous. And I do like Matt Ishbia. If y'all are not familiar, he's actually a phenomenal owner. He really is, in terms of caring about the fans. Like, he has all these cheap concessions at his games, like $2 popcorn and drinks. He's a good owner, when it comes to that stuff. But he's definitely being stupid and stubborn, which kind of sounds like the Miami Heat's president of basketball operations. But it does seem like the Suns are expecting to get the same value that they traded for to get Kevin Durant. It's like, he's 37. You're not going to get everything back that you once traded for him. That's not how it works. When you trade for someone and it doesn't work out, spoiler alert, you lost the trade. You took a risk. It didn't work. That doesn't now mean, okay, we can go ahead and hit redo. We can hit hand him a Uno reverse card and get it back. No. If that was the case, the Heat would get their 1st-round pick back for Terry Rozier. It doesn't work. Sometimes you just lose a trade, and as good as Kevin Durant's been with the Suns, I don't want to say they lost that trade. It just didn't work out for them team-wise. So obviously, okay, they got to take an L on that and move on the best that they can. But I guess the Suns owner is holding out because he doesn't like the offers from the Rockets, Spurs, and Heat. That's kind of been what the main reporting is. The Athletic, this time specifically, Sam Amick and John Krasinski came out and said this, which, like, why would you trust John Krasinski? He's most known for being Jim Halpert on The Office. It's like, what does he know about basketball? That's a joke, by the way. This guy's last name is like No, is it literally Krasinski? Is that how you pronounce this? John Krasinski? Oh my God, I just hit myself in the face with this mic. That must be a bad omen for something. Anyways, they basically said that the Spurs and Rockets and Heat, they put together their final offers. Really, nobody is upping one another. Because it's like, why would they? Like, we're not going to bid against ourselves like for a 37-year-old. We put those offers out there, pick one. If you want to be stubborn, Suns, I don't know what to tell you. But then the other report that we did get from The Athletic, this one is also from Sam Amick and John Krasinski. They said that the Timberwolves are poised to reemerge as a real contender if KD warms up to the possibility of joining Minnesota, which could honestly be The Athletic continuing to try to force this Minnesota agenda. Like, it's not going to happen. There was other reports saying Minnesota had a done deal, 3-team trade. Nick Claxton, with 3-team deal with the Nets. Claxton would go to the Suns. I still want to get a video out specifically on how the Nets could kind of help the Heat. And I do think Claxton could be an interesting part of that because he's a nice center who could be on the move. I think he'd be a good piece for Phoenix. He's a nice defensive piece for them. Way better than Rudy Gobert, which, why is Phoenix so desperate to get Rudy Gobert? That guy sucks. Imagine keep building up all this leverage for Minnesota just to get Rudy Gobert. Imagine wanting Rudy Gobert that bad. It don't make sense to me. But anyways, we keep hearing about Minnesota. It's not going to happen. Supposedly, they had a 3-team deal in place. Kevin Durant shut it down because he doesn't want to go there. A bunch of old tweets resurfaced of him saying how much he dislikes the cold in Minnesota, talking about his chapped lips and this and that. It also came out that Anthony Edwards is not going to actively recruit Kevin Durant. So that's not going to happen, as long as KD doesn't want to be there, which it would be stupid for them to trade for him because why would you trade for a guy on an expiring deal? Like, okay, can Minnesota win if they had Kevin Durant? Maybe, but they're going to have to match the salaries, meaning they're losing Jaden McDaniels or Julius Randle, who had a nice playoffs before the conference finals. Or they're losing Rudy Gobert, which in that case could help them because, once again, that guy sucks. But anyways, you also got this Josh Gambadoro, the Gambo guy. I don't know. This guy's some master puppet clown idiot for the Phoenix Suns. And he's out there trashing Miami, trashing all these other offers, but specifically Miami. He's like, oh, the deal hasn't got done yet because who wants Khalil Ware? Who wants Andrew Wiggins? All those guys suck. Like, you don't know basketball, bro. What do you want? You want to trade? You want the Suns to trade Kevin Durant for Giannis? That guy's an idiot. He's a talking puppet, just like Adrian Wojnarowski was. Don't listen to anything that John Gambadoro says on Twitter, or whatever dumb show he's on. That guy's an idiot. The other team that we're really hearing a little bit is in terms of a dark horse team is the Toronto Raptors. Supposedly they submitted an offer for RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and Jakob Poeltl, and the number 9 pick. The number 9 pick is nice. That would be the main asset here because I think they could get a real good player at number 9, maybe even Derek Queen if they're looking for a nice potential center that they could grow with. But as far as Barrett, Quickley, and Poeltl, good players, for sure. But one, they all make a lot of money, especially Quickley. Quickley's making $30+ million. Not worth it. Jakob Poeltl's making about $20 million for the next 2 years. Good player, but a backup center. $20 million a year for the next 2 years for a backup. Not great. And RJ Barrett's making slightly under $30 million. I think that's okay value, but it's for a couple of years. So really, the Suns aren't getting any cap flexibility here because all these guys have a lot of money for a lot of years. And, they're kind of overpaid, at least Quickley and Poeltl. So I don't think Toronto deal has any chance of going through. I just don't think the number 9 pick is enticing. What's the word? I don't know. Enticing. It's not enticing enough. Was I saying enticing? Probably because I'm hungry. Anyways, is that a sign that he's going to the Nuggets? Tyson Nuggets? I don't know. I always thought KD would be fire in the Nuggets. Like, bro, Jokic and KD, give them a scoring option outside of Jokic. But then the only movable contract the Nuggets got is like MPJ, and he kind of sucks too. That's the issue. That's why it's like the only teams Durant really could go to that might make some sense is like, Houston, San Antonio, or the Heat. Like, we looked into this with all 30 teams, and the only other ones I think had an okay shot was like Dallas, maybe, because they could have moved PJ Washington, Gafford, definitely pieces that would fit nice in Phoenix. They have the picks. They're not going to move Cooper Flag, of course, but I feel like KD would have fit their timeline much better than the other two Texas teams. But for whatever reason, KD didn't want to go to Dallas. So anyways, I will say, though, I think the longer this situation drags on, the worse it gets for Miami. Similar case as the Dame situation, maybe not as much because the Dame thing, he only wanted Miami. So, like, There's nothing else, nobody else like waiting there. It's like either they accept Miami's offer or not. Miami wasn't going to bid against themselves. In this case, I guess Miami might be incentivized to up their offer. If they know Houston and San Antonio also have other offers out there. But I don't think this bodes well if it continues to drag on. I know the John Gambador guy keeps saying it's going to happen this week. He said more likely the weekend. Well, I mean, I'm recording this video very late on Wednesday night. So we'll see if anything happens within the next few days. I mean, the draft is now, I think, literally a week away. I think the draft's a week away from the time of this recording. But yeah, the only other possible thing is Miami can up their offer, which they might. I know they're kind of stubborn. They have the price set for these guys that they want. But Ethan Skolnick reported that Spoelstra is actually the guy pushing hardest for a Kevin Durant trade, which makes sense because his job is to win games. His job is not to worry about the salary cap and whatnot, but his job is to win games. He's worked with Kevin Durant before. He wants that kind of talent on his roster, and Spo does have a lot of pull in the front office. So if he's pushing hard, it could convince the Heat to up their offer. But I still don't like our chances the longer that this drags out, which is honestly fine for me because I speak for all Miami Heat fans when I say that we prefer Jonathan Kuminga anyways.
They drafted the cum bucket? That's crazy, bro.
Now, obviously, I'm kidding there. I'm going through the stages of coping right now instead of the stages of grief. I'm major coping right now. This is like the third stage of coping, which is mentally preparing for the worst. And I'm still overlapping from the coping I'm doing from the Dame saga. I'm on like stage 19 of that, which is eternal pettiness to Joe Cronin. God, I hate that guy. But it was reported that Jonathan Kuminga was kind of the Heat's plan B if they don't get Kevin Durant. So I did want to explore that a little bit. Of course, the biggest issue is his contract because he is a restricted free agent currently. Last season, he made about $7.5 million, and he is due for a major payday. How much? I don't exactly know. Bobby Marks, the cap expert for ESPN, he says he would give Kuminga a 3-year, $81 million deal, which comes to about $27 million per year. Would he take that, Kuminga? I don't know, because when I was doing research on Kuminga, I learned that apparently this past, not this offseason, but last year's offseason, he turned down an extension worth a $150 million extension over 5 years, which comes to $30 million a year. So if he was to accept 3 years, $81 million, it'd be a little bit less per year, but at least he'd only be locked into 3 years unless Bobby Marks presented a player option to be a choice as well. So if that's the case, 3 years, last year's a player option, Kuminga personally would be locked into $27 million a year for 2 years. And then if he plays well, he could opt out and sign somewhere for more. So maybe he would take that just so he's not tied down to the 5 years, 150 like he already declined. But it might be hard for him to take less money. Or he might not have a choice, like he turned down 150. Maybe his agent didn't give him good advice, or maybe he bet on himself and it didn't work out because he really didn't have a spectacular season. He played 47 games, 24 minutes a night, so not a big sample size. Did average 15 points per night, which is pretty good. And he averaged about 5 rebounds, 2 assists to about 1.5 turnovers, so not a great playmaker. But the efficiencies weren't great. 45% from the field is fine, but then 30% from 3, which is obviously not that good. I want to talk about his fit in terms of the Miami Heat. We'll go through the pros and cons. In terms of pros, he's young, right? He's by no means a finished product. I think that's important to point out. He's 22 years old, but he'll be 23 by the time the season starts. He's very athletic, so he will bring some speed and athleticism to this team, which they desperately need. He has the tools to be a dominant defensive player, 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan, and the aforementioned athleticism. I think he could be a really interesting piece on that end, a good tool for Spoelstra. And he's a capable scorer. Although he's not a good shooter, 15 points per game in 24 minutes is not bad at all. He can use his athleticism to kind of get to the rim. So there's potential there. There is a potential for a great player in there. There really is. And the last pro is he'd kind of be a good buy low candidate, depending on the price. Even if you get him for $27 million, if he can turn into a 20-point per game scorer with decent defense and up to 3-point percentage to be average, $27 million is a steal. So there's some pros there. The cons, he missed a lot of time last year with an ankle injury. Again, only 47 games. Fit-wise, doesn't seem like a great basketball fit because he can't shoot. And obviously, you got Bam Adebayo, who's extending his game a little bit, but he's not a stretch big by any means. Same with Khalil Ware. Both those guys can shoot, but that's not what you want them doing consistently. And then also, you have to pay Jonathan Kuminga right now as an unknown. The Heat haven't had him in their system. They don't know his personality. They don't know his work ethic. You know, they can talk and talk to Steve Kerr. They have a good relationship, but it's different not having a guy in your system. You don't know him as much, meaning you have to pay him as an unknown, which is really, really not a good thing. As far as the playing time that Kuminga had last year, we heard Kerr talk about it. Kerr basically said we didn't play Kuminga too much in the playoffs because he had concerns about his fit within the team's offensive role. And apparently Kerr also had issues with Kuminga prioritizing his own shot creation over the team's offense. That's not a good thing. You know, when you're playing with Steph Curry, got to get Steph Curry the ball. Now, if he was in the Heat system, probably would be the guy. You know, Tyler Hero, yeah, he can score, but we've seen him as a 1A in the playoffs. It doesn't work. Bam Adebayo has aggressive inconsistency, so maybe Kuminga would be the guy here. He wants to be the guy, so I guess that part works out. I just don't think he's good enough to be the guy, and I don't think he can be good enough. He's never really been a good enough shooter. To his credit, though, when Curry did go down in the playoffs, Kuminga got a lot more playing time, and he did step up. You know, it was only 4 games, but in those 4 games since Curry went down, Kuminga averaged 24 points per game, about 3.5 rebounds, 1 assist, so not a lot of passing there. But he did shoot 55% from the field and 39% from 3 on 4.5 attempts. So very small sample size, but it is encouraging that when Curry went out, he was able to really step up. But for me personally, too many questions there. If he gets that $27 million that Bobby Marks speculates his market is, that's about what Andrew Wiggins is getting. And right now, that's 18% of the salary cap. And just like that's too much to commit, too much of your salary cap to commit to Wiggins, I think it's too much to commit to Kuminga. I wouldn't do that. And now you're not only talking about paying Kuminga, but you're talking about giving up assets to get him because he would be a sign-in trade. So you have to lose assets and pay him 18% of the cap. I just can't do that. You know, I suppose the Heat could match his salary with just Andrew Wiggins or Terry Rozier, but the Warriors would want assets in addition to the salary match. Otherwise, you know, they would just let Kuminga walk for nothing. Like, why would they take on Terry Rozier and no picks if they could just let Kuminga walk? Warriors don't want Terry Rozier. You know, so it'd have to be Terry plus some second-round picks or Jaime Jaquez or whatever. I don't know how much they value Kuminga. Maybe the Warriors value Wiggins enough to flop Kuminga for Wiggins, but if I was the Heat, I don't know if I would do that. I mean, I don't know. It depends what kind of contract Kuminga's willing to take on, because Wiggins still got about 2 to 3 years left on his contract himself. But remember, Jonathan Kuminga is a restricted free agent, so it's also possible that this offseason a bad team gives him a huge offer sheet, kind of putting Golden State in a rough position there, because then the Warriors would have to match if they want to keep Kuminga or trade Kuminga. It reminds me of when the Heat had Tyler Johnson as a restricted free agent. Unfortunately, they had to pay Tyler Johnson $50 million over 4 years because the Brooklyn Nets matched him to an offer or signed him to an offer sheet, and the Heat didn't want to lose Tyler Johnson for nothing. They should have let him walk. $50 million for him was way too much. I don't know. For Miami Heat, I understand. I said the worst case scenario is for the Heat is running it back. But what I actually think would be the worst absolute case scenario is throwing a ton of money at someone who isn't worth it. And truthfully, I don't think Kuminga is worth the money that he's going to demand. So if that is the plan B, probably would rather run it back. DeMar, it's a little bit more interesting because DeMar's been the other plan B option we've been hearing a lot. He's making like $24 million over the next 2 years. You know what his money is. It's not a super long term. It's only got the 2 years left. Is DeMar doing anything? No. But if you get DeMar for cheap, maybe some expirings, maybe the Kings just want some salary cap relief. You maybe have to trade some seconds or something. Okay, now you have some assets to go get someone else. So yeah, you bring in DeMar first, go get someone else. Obviously, if DeMar is the only move, that's pointless. So, but you can't make more than one moves without just making the first move first. I guess that's my point here. Anyways, that's really all I got to say for this video. So let me know y'all thoughts down below on Jonathan Kuminga and where you think Kevin Durant ends up, I guess. I don't know. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. I'm on the grind to hit 8,000 subs, and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's video. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.